Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of A Slice of History with the Butterfly Princess. This is where I read you an article each week from editions of the BBC History magazine. Now, this week I'm going to be reading you an article from entitled "What Really Happened to Lord Lucan." And this article appears in the December 2024 edition of the BBC History magazine. This article has been written by a lady called Laura Thompson, who is the author of A Different Class of Murder, the story of Lord Lucan, what was published by the publishing house Bloomsbury in the year 2014. So I'm going to read you this article now. Minute. Right, so here's the article. Now I'm going to start reading it. 50 years after the notorious peer vanished following the murder of his children's nanny, Laura Thompson reviews the case of the gambling earl and explores what it reveals about social attitudes of the time. Just before 9 p.m. on Thursday, the 7th of November 1974, the third calm of Belgravia, the oasis of Whitestunco in the heart of London, was defiled by violence. Behind the skeggy facade of 46 Lower Belgrave Street, family home of the 7th Earl of Lucan, 29-year-old nanny Sandra Withett descended from the top of the 6-storey house into the basement to make tea. In the darkness, an assailant was waiting. Sandra was bludgeoned to death with a length of piping, bundled into a sack and left on the bloody kitchen floor. Shortly after, near the top of the basement stairs, another woman, 37-year-old Veronica Lucan, the oldest estranged wife, was similarly beaten. She fought off her attacker just before 10 p.m, burst into the Plumber's Arms pub at the end of Lower Belgrave Street. The late evening customers were confronted with the sight of a small barefoot woman, her head coated with blood. Help me, I've just escaped from being murdered, she exclaimed, followed by my children, he's murdered my nanny. From that moment, the story became public property. Shortly afterwards, police kicked in the elegant door of the Lucan home. There, within the formal interior, they found Sandra Withett's body. Upstairs were 3 children who had been in her care: Francis, aged 10, George, 7, and 4-year-old Camilla. No trace of an assailant was discovered. Quite soon, however, the identity of the man whom Veronica Lucan claimed had murdered my nanny would be known to Scotland Yard detectives. From her bed in hospital, where she received 60 stitches to close her head wound. Veronica stated that the attacker had been her husband, Lord Lucan. 39-year-old Richard John Bingham, a professional gambler nicknamed Lucky. It was then too that the official theory about the case was formed, a version of events that was instantly accepted by the police, and which even after half a century of speculation has never been submented. According to this narrative, Sandra Rivet, who should have had the night off, was murdered in error. Her killer mistakenly believing that the woman descending into the basement was Lady Lucan. When Veronica herself appeared around 9 p.m, Lord Lucan realised his mistake and attacked her. He wasn't able to finish the job. The Lucans had lived separately since January 1973. In July that year, Veronica had won a vicious custody battle that cost Lucan around £20,000, and which he was obsessed with overturning. He became deeply concerned for his children, not least because Lady Lucan suffered with a series of mental health problems, which he judged might leave her unable to care for them adequately. By this point, he was drinking heavily and gambling more heavily still. It seemed then that his motive for killing his wife was strong, both financially and emotionally. Sandra, who'd been employed for just 10 weeks, was for collateral damage. After Veronica ran to the pub, Lord Lucan also left the house. Almost nothing is known of his movements thereafter. From an unidentified location, he rang his mother, Kathleen, the Dowager Countess and a Labour Party activist, asking her to collect the children. According to her, he added, "Oh, mother, there was something terrible in the basement. I couldn't bring myself to look." Sometime before midnight, he visited the home of Susan Maxwell Scott, a friend in Yupfield, Sussex. At the 1975 inquest into the into Sandra Rivet's death, Susan related the story that she said Lucan had offered her. He had been passing the house in Belgravia, saw a fight going on in the basement, and rushed in to interrupt it where open. Veronica accused him of hiring a hitman. The story was also told in a letter postmarked Yupfield sent to Lucan's brother-in-law, Bill Shandkid. They has determined her hatred for me in the past and would do anything to see me accused, Lucan wrote. At some point in the early hours, he wrote 2 letters to an old friend, Michael Scoop. The car that the suspect had been driving, a Ford Corsia, borrowed from Scoop, it was found on Sunday the 10th of November, parked in a residential street in the port of Newham, some 17 miles from Upfield. Lord Lucan himself had disappeared. It is not hard to understand why this case became an immediate cause celebre. It had everything, including a mystery with the vanished girl, the remains unsolved to this day. The most famous murderers carry both a mythic element of the timeless and an atmospheric imprint of their time, and none more so than this one. It was part. It was part. It was part of. It was a parable of class, the high-born bar well of Aristotle Herbies, but the flavour of the story, the peculiar pregnancy of its social context, is that the early 1970s. Before the murder, Lord Lucan, pin-stripped and sleek to be in the age of T-Rex and Wimpy bars, had produced proceeding every day from Belgravia to the Claremont Club on an elite gambling house on Berkeley Square, where the 3-day week and the oil prices raged in a troubled country that settled down at night to watch upstairs, downstairs. Lucan, living a solitary life on an income of £12,000 a year, and around £110,000 in today's terms, could not have existed in a later era. His kind aristocrats with neither sufficient means nor the will to earn them were on the edge of extinction. In an earlier age, he would not have been so profoundly encouraging. His life would probably have been quite different. In 1974, his reverberative image, looming arrogantly from every newspaper, was, to use a then unknown phrase, supremely triggering. There was never a second of doubt about his guilt through the case against him rested upon the word of Veronica, Lady Lucan. She was portrayed as frail, yet imperviously perhaps rather reminiscent of Diana, Princess of Wales, in a later era. Arguably, the strongest evidence against the Earl was that he had run away. So much for the mottos of the old school in his case, eating, but Mangates facing the music and behaving like a gentleman. Here was proof of that they were no better than us, an intensely satisfying narrative. The national mood was summoned up by a letter to the Daily Express, printed on the 20th of November 1974. The ordinary people of this country are accustomed to being told how lazy and greedy they have become and how they must make great sacrifices, it said. If I were a manufacturer worker or a railwayman, and I had read of Lord Lucan's lifestyle, rise at noon, lunch at the Claremont, gambling losses of £5,000 in one afternoon, I would have said a few well-chosen words when my alarm went off this morning. Britain was bankrupt and volatile, crippled by strikes, high energy costs and taxation. This was also the year of the IRA pub bombings. On the night of 7th of November, as the first detective was entering 46 Lower Belgrave Street, 2 people were killed in a pub near Woolwich Royal Artillery Barracks. A couple of weeks previously, there had been a minor explosion at Brooks Club in St James's Street. The world of Lord Lucan was not in fact immune to the national situation, but it certainly looked that way. Had Lucan been arrested and tried, there would have been a glorious sense of caste. Instead, he continued to evade justice. Where is this jerk? He's giving me a headache, was how Detective Sergeant Graham for Swift, the official assigned as Lady Lucan's de facto bodyguard, summoned up the general mood. Yet there was also a kind of pleasure within the frustrated rage at the way this story was playing out. It was confirming a communal belief that those who belong to the establishment can get away with things. Lord Lucan has so many friends. There is so much money around, said Ernest Hens by Sandra Rivet's mother at her daughter's inquest, which opened on the 16th of June 1975 and ended with a guilty verdict against Lucan. One minute. Mirror, wait. Mirror railing against the ugly real life performance of Upstairs Downstairs. It claimed the ranks had closed against Veronica, who dared to accuse her vanished husband, the 7th Earl of Lucan, game damned bad show doesn't clap now, alluding to the fact that Bill Shard King and his wife, Lady Lucan's sister, had spent the 19th of June at the races. The editorial concluded with the beastly inquest into the bargain. It was Ascot Week too. A highly persuasive article by the writer James Fox, published in the Sunday Times magazine a few days earlier, had set the prevailing mood in elegant stone. Lucan was a cold, aggressive throwback, it suggested, a monstrous emblem of male privilege. His wife was quite a feminist figure, an intelligent modern woman who, despite her struggles with depression, had stood up to Lucan and suffered for it. His friends on his side were also condemning, almost patronising towards the police investigation. The last, of course, played into the belief strongly implied from an earlier on that Lucan had been helped to flee justice. The circle of upper-class gamblers who congratulated at the Clement, the Eton Mafia, as Scotland Yard called them, would it suggested do anything for one of their own, the freedom of the Earl being worth more than life of the servants in their gaslit antique code. It is a belief that dies hard, yet 50 years on, now that Lucan's case is history, the solicitor has included, it has claimed its nuisance should surely be clearer to see. Since the death of Lady Lucan in 2017, it has, for instance, become possible to question her testimony, which during her lifetime was presented as a kind of gospel. One can also criticise the conduct of the police. No other suspect was ever considered, so in essence, there was no investigation. There was, however, a good deal of relish among the police at having the knobs in their power. Indeed, Lucan's friends became useful scapegoats for the police failure to find the man himself, that intoxicating hate figure who had quite possibly got away with murder, because that is what the rich and powerful did. Yet Lucan merrily looked rich and powerful. In fact, he was a weak man, though liked by many, including those who thought him capable of eliminating a woman who had come to hate others through him innocence. He could scarcely have been more remote from the image that has long held sway, glued into position by our healthy national resentment of two-tier justice. Our love of a schedule, our pleasure in such a glaring, almost cartoonish proof that the establishment is as rotten as we wish it to believe, In truth, it should also now be clear Lucan was establishment on paper only. He was a man whose sole status came from a mirror title, living off a couple of family trusts, teetering on the brink of bankruptcy, and an earl without proper means was, by the 1970s, a figure with no authority at all. A melting waxwork paid to sit at the Claymont tables and dress for the house for the truly rich and powerful, the ones with oil money, yet within the British side. The class system exerted its strange idyllic pull. It would do still that would occur today. So that was what really happened to Lord Lucan, by written for the December edition of the BBC History magazine by the author Laura Thompson, who was the author of a different class of murder, the story of Lord Lucan. And I just wanted to read some an extra sort of little article that goes along with it. Right, so an enduring mystery. 1 minute. An enduring mystery. Theories about Lord Lucan's fate continue to swirl. In 1992, the High Court made this declaration: be it known that the Right Honourable Richard John Bingham, 7th Earl of Lucan, died on or since the 8th day of November 1974. That effectively was an acceptance of the evidence of Susan Maxwell Scott, who said that Lucan drove away from her house in Yuckfield in the early hours of the 8th of November. Of course, that statement is improvable. The car that Lucan was driving was seen parked in New Haven in the early hours of that November day, but there was no way to prove who had driven it there. So it is possible that Lucan was at that moment being flown out of the country, and even that he is, at the age of nearly 90, still alive today. Indeed, in 1999, his son George was refused permission to take his seat in the House of Lords. There being reasonable doubt as to whether the title was his to assume. It was not until 2016 and that George became the 8th Earl of Lucan, and even then, his accession did not mark an end to speculation about the fate of his father. In the past 50 years, Lucan has been seen all around the world. He has been identified as, among many other people, a pot-smoking hippie goer. When disgraced Labour MP John Stonehouse was arrested in Australia in December 1974, having faked his own death, He was apprehended in the belief that he was Lucan. There have even been claims that the Earl himself was murdered. The detective who headed the investigation and who at the time was wholly convinced that Lucan had killed himself, later signed a book deal to explore the powerful new conviction that the Earl was in Botswana. The son of Sandra Rivet, adopted at birth, but undesirably possessed with an urge to achieve justice, pursues the belief that Lucan is now a Buddhist living in Australia. I myself agree with the 1992 statement by the High Court. If there was a plan to help Lucan escape, it was dreamed up by his friends, most of whom were tapped out gamblers rather than masters of the universe. On the super spur of the moment, yet was so watertight that it had succeeded in keeping him hidden and alive for half a century. I find this impossible I find this impossible to accept, not least because the cost involved would have been immense. To my mind, Lucan knew that New Haven was the journey's end. His words in a final letter to Michael Scoop, when you come across my children, which I hope you will, please tell them that you knew me and that I cared about and that all I cared about was them. Read like a signing off, then he threw it in his hand and jumped into the English Channel. Other theories are available. So thank you for tuning in, everybody. That concludes this week's edition of a slice of history with the Butterfly Princess. Join me next Monday, where I will be reading to you another article from the December 2024 edition of BBC History magazine, and this next week we'll be telling you all about. Find the page. About the history of the Ladybird book. So hope you can join me for that. But until then, I'll see you very soon. The next time I'll see you will be on Thursday. For this week's edition of an extra slice of history with the Butterfly Princess. Keep your eyes peeled for what the topic of that episode is going to be. That will be posted on Thursday morning on our Butterfly Princess Show social media platforms. And then I will be posting the episode later on sometime on Thursday. And don't forget, you can follow the Butterfly Princess Show on these following platforms. So you can follow the Butterfly Princess Show on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Again, the 4 platforms that you can follow the Butterfly Princess Show are Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Until next time, see you very, very soon. Have a lovely rest of your day. Bye-bye.